All right, Cowboys Packers just wrapped up. I was waiting for that to finish. Ties are so unsatisfying. 40 all. It was a hell of a game, and then it just kind of finishes with a buzzkill. That being said, entering that game, that was the number 3 ranked Green Bay defense in the league, and they looked like a dominant force. Even in their loss to the Browns, they were overpowering. Dak Prescott and the Cowboys drop 40 on the Packers. The point of it all is that you are one moment of hesitation away, one blink away from having a rough game in this league. It's just that competitive of a situation. And, Christian McCaffrey, I think, said it best. We're going to be talking about the 49ers 26-21 loss to Jacksonville. Losses are going to happen, like bad games. And the 49ers just had one today littered with mistakes, a ton of drops, just atrocious special teams. There was the shoddy first half on defense. I mean, stuff is not going to be perfect over the course of an NFL season. Every game, and I was saying this after the wins, weeks 1, 2, and 3, every game is a chapter you're trying to write the larger novel. And the 49ers have won 3 of their first 4. You could argue that the probability said they shouldn't have won 3 of their first 4. Maybe they should just be 2-2 or so right now. Maybe they're only plus 5 point differential. They could easily be 1-3 as well. But they have gritted their way to wins more often than not so far. Today they weren't able to get it done. Good news for them is they play again on Thursday to wash the taste out of their mouth. But let's listen in to Christian McCaffrey.
And I've never been a part of an undefeated team. I think one team has, and you lose in this league. And when you lose, I think that's how it's about how you respond. And everybody in that locker room's lost before. Everyone in the locker room's, maybe not played their best. And as a team, we've not played our best. But the beauty is we play in 4 days, and so that's stuff that, with quick turnarounds, as I said, you just flush it and move on and get better.
They have to. Kyle Shanahan's press conference tomorrow over the phone is earlier than normal. Normally it's at 3:30 or 4. Tomorrow it's scheduled for 12:30, and they let us know that it might even be sooner. And that's because the 49ers have to act quickly. The Rams beat the Colts. I wrote about that up on the San Francisco Standard. And that was a 27-20 score. And now the 49ers play a much more important game on Thursday. It's a division game. They lost one to an AFC South team. It personally probably meant more to Robert Saleh and Liam Coen, given the fact that there was a little bit of a yelling match between the two afterward. Kyle Shanahan said that Liam Coen shouldn't have overreacted like that. I think it very clearly traces back not only to the sign stealing comments from Robert Saleh, but maybe back to the fact that the Jags picked Coen over Saleh to be their head coach, and maybe even further back to 2024 when Saleh was fired after a game against now Jacksonville offensive coordinator Grant Udinski, who's with Minnesota, and Saleh spoke about Udinski earlier this week. So there was all kinds of tension. We could even watch the video here. This came from a Jacksonville news source. This is what happened on the field after the game. That was former Stanford offensive lineman Walker Little, was 72. He's with Jacksonville now. He was John a bit with Robert Saleh. And then we heard Liam Coen say, get your name out of my mouth. And then supposedly Robert Saleh said something back, although we can't confirm it with the video. Maybe more is going to come out in a little bit. But my take on that is I think that Liam Coen is upset about how that was aggregated. And it wouldn't be the first time that the media and social media make something look different than what the actual meaning was. Robert Saleh, I think, very clearly was trying to sow some seeds of doubt in Liam Cohen's and his staff's minds regarding how they're reading the 49ers defense and some of the signals they were trying to pick up on and obviously act on with their play calling. Saleh made sure to say that this is legal signal stealing. Like, he emphasized that multiple times. The problem is that whenever Twitter or social media, any media gets a hold of the word signal stealing, they put them in a headline, and it seems like you're accusing somebody of being the Houston Astros. And I don't think that's what Robert Saleh was doing. I think this was just some gamesmanship to create some doubt within the back and forth with Jacksonville. But the way that it came across in the media, Liam Coen thought that made him look bad, and he didn't think that Robert Saleh should have said that in the media, because he thought that it was ripe to this type of twisting and misinterpretation. Kyle Shanahan after the game said, the guy shouldn't have overreacted that much, but he kind of shrugged it off. They had the yelling match on the field. We'll see if any other stuff comes out of that. I think that from a personal standpoint, both Robert Saleh and Liam Coen really, really wanted to win that football game. Coen comes out the winner, and everybody moves on to week 5. It's as simple as that. I would say that Robert Saleh's defense actually acquitted itself decently well today. Robert Saleh especially, because in the first half, Jacksonville ran over the 49ers, and it looked at a certain point there that San Francisco was going to get blown out. And then the defense stiffened up, and they did so even despite the fact they were unable to really get pressure without Nick Bosa on Trevor Lawrence. There's a couple stats here. Lawrence was 2.63 seconds from snap to release today, which is one of the quickest times in the NFL. So it was obviously big time quick game for Jacksonville. They figured if they got rid of the ball quickly, that 49ers defensive line, which doesn't have nearly as much punch as it did with Nick Bosa, wouldn't be able to get home. And they were right. This was the first 49ers game without a quarterback sack or a quarterback hit logged since 2015. But still, despite all that, the Jags managed only 3.2 yards in the second half. That's 94 yards on 29 plays after halftime. So Saleh was able to tighten up some of the coverages. He was able to bring a couple blitzes in the second half that were very effective for the 49ers. And he was able to put the 49ers, I thought, in position to win this game from a defensive standpoint. So sign, signal, gate. And I know that there's going to be replays and maybe more videos will come out of what exactly was said between Robert Saleh and Liam Coen after the game. I thought that, though, from the Coen-Saleh matchup, offense against defense, essentially ended up in a draw. Well, the 49ers lost this game with complete ineptitude on special teams, and obviously just not being able to hold on to the ball offensively, whether it be Luke Farrell's fumble, Kendrick Bourne's 3 drops. Jawan Jennings couldn't hold on to a pass in the end zone that should have been a touchdown for the 49ers. Just going through all of this, I know that ended the first half, I believe, the one that Jennings couldn't haul in. Christian McCaffrey couldn't haul in one that was a little bit high from Brock Purdy in the first half that turned into an interception. I mean, end of the day, the 49ers put up nearly 400 yards of total offense. They were well over 6 yards per play, yet they obviously came away with only 3 touchdowns worth of the scoring with I think some field goals mixed in there. I have to look at the scoring summary for the 49ers. Yeah, Pinheiro opened with a 26-yarder, and then he had a 23-yarder. 2-point conversion obviously brought some points back for the 49ers. So they scored 21, essentially 3 touchdowns worth of scoring. But when you've got 400 yards of offense and over 6 yards of play, you need to be in the upper 20s with that output. And they've struggled in the red zone. We know that. They need George Kittle back, I think, badly in that part of the field. Jawan Jennings needed to catch that football that hit his hands, even with the defender draped all over him. And I think Kyle Shanahan needs to be a bit better calling plays in the red zone. I think there are way too many first down runs into brick walls, and it's setting the 49ers up for failure with really tough second and third down situations. The special teams, though, is where you talk about thin margins and one play here, one play there. That's the case in any NFL game. Whenever it's a one-score game, you can go back and you could look at plays that could have changed the outcome if they had gone in a different direction. And there's a lot of nuance and there's a lot of subtlety to that. But I think that you could identify a number of offensive and defensive plays today that fit into that category. Special teams, the failures that the 49ers saw there just dwarfed everything else and just blew the doors off of any other deficiency that the 49ers had in this game. And there were plenty of them on offense and defense. I mean, there were some bad drops in this game. I thought Purdy's interception wasn't good. It was tipped at the line, but I don't think he should have been trying to push that ball to the second level of the field. It was first down. Just take the profit and move on. Check down and move on. Don't try to force the ball into this tight window as if it's third down. It's first down. It was tipped and then it was picked. So anyway, you look at that, everything pales in comparison to the fact that the 49ers, after kicking a field goal at the end of the first half, could not muster the kick coverage to keep Jacksonville on their side of midfield. So that field goal was nullified because it allowed Parker Washington to set the Jags up for a field goal of their own. And then there's the whole situation where the 49ers, it was a terrible sequence. First, that they dropped themselves out of a possession with Kendrick Bourne coming across the middle, and he would still be running across the Golden Gate Bridge right now. It'd probably be in Marin County if he had caught that ball. There was only green grass in front of him. Purdy put it beautifully, drops the pass. So it's like, okay, fine. That's a brutal error, but at least the 49ers can put Jacksonville, pin them deep and let the defense go to work, right? No. 87-yard punt return for Washington. And I know that there's some talk of, was this a clip? Or was this, what was Saran Neal illegally blocked? And did that prevent the 49ers from making a play? I really can care less about that because there was nobody within 5 yards of Parker Washington, with the exception of maybe the punter, Thomas Morstead. Beyond that, and Morstead wasn't going to catch him. It looked like high school coverage against the Jacksonville punt return. And, punt return touchdowns have become exceedingly rare in the NFL over the course of the past several years. The special teams coordinators are really good with spray charts and figuring out exactly where the football needs to be. The punters are typically very precise, and you can choke off all of those big time return angles. There was even a season a couple years back where I think there might have been 1 or 2 punt returns by the end of it, but we were getting late into the season, November or December, without a single punt return for a touchdown in the NFL. So when a special teams unit gives up an 87-yard punt return for a touchdown with just all kinds of green grass, it doesn't matter if there was one clip. There has to be more of a rally to the football, and there just wasn't. And if we thought that was the low point for the 49ers special teams, there was the Chase Lucas personal foul later on that nearly fully buried the 49ers, but they got second life. I get it. We saw the missed field goal from Jacksonville, so the 49ers got 3 special teams points back that way, and that's when Eric Armstead ended up closing the game for Jacksonville. But you just go back and you see a 5-point game, and you look at 87-yard punt return set up by the Kendrick Bourne drop, most brutal 2-play sequence of the season. That was the margin in this game. And you could look at it both ways. You could say, oh my God, this was the ugliest stretch of plays that we've seen from the 49ers this year, which is true. You could also say, well, despite this horrendous special teams play, all those terrible drops, they still only lost by 5 to one of the most efficient teams defensively, at least in football. And they're an upper half offensive team. Jacksonville is. They're not great offensively. And we saw them hit a wall today, but the 49ers still managed to stay competitive. Anyway, speaking of Armstead, former 49ers, the Eric Armstead revenge game. This was a cool moment after the game. Chris Kasarik, San Francisco's defensive line coach, who Eric Armstead credits with resuscitating his career back in 2019. Those two guys met up on the field. This is courtesy of Channel 5. Matt Lively got this video here. He works in the local Bay Area news.
And the final score of today's game, the Jacksonville Jaguars 26, the 49ers 21.
So Eric Armstead and Chris Kasarik, that goes back to 2019. Eric had a tough start to his career, a lot of injuries, was taking a lot of criticism. And then Chris came in and implemented the wide nine, started using Eric in an outside in kind of role. And he blossomed with 10 sacks, I think, in that 2019 season, became part of that 49ers gold rush and earned a lot of money with his new contract in 2020. Was a very valuable piece for the 49ers all the way up until they couldn't afford to keep him, or decided that they couldn't afford to keep him ahead of 2024. His salary was about 17 or 18 million. They wanted to cut it to 6, according to Eric. He didn't take the pay cut. He signed with Jacksonville for about 13 or 14 million. So in a way, you could call it the Eric Armstead revenge game. And he did get some vengeance, if that's what he was looking for. Rushed against Dominic Pooney, got blown up on the play, and Jake Brendel, and then knocked that ball away from Brock Purdy. It was the 49ers' 4th giveaway of this game. Now, this right here is going to be ugly. I'm going to show you guys the turnover differential chart as soon as I could open this up on the screen. All right, this is from Football Database. Maybe if I can get it open. Maybe not. Yeah, is it showing up on the screen, Mike? I don't see it on. It's just like a black part of the screen. Let me try this one more time. There it is. All right, so look at this. Takeaways, Jacksonville leading the league with 9. And if you scroll all the way down, the 49ers are second to last. Well, this is turnover. Sorry, this is turnover differential. Jacksonville is +9. 49ers are second to last with -5. Takeaways. Jacksonville leads the league with 13. 49ers are down at 3. And not a single interception for the 49ers either on the season. Now, I know that they thought they had one with Upton Stallet. I know that they didn't like the call on that play, but Jacksonville's nearing double digits here with their interceptions, and the 49ers are still looking for their first one since last November. And they've got to keep on plugging away. I thought that the adjustments they made in the second half, where they were able to get a little bit of pressure and fluster Trevor Lawrence into a few near interceptions. Obviously, the Upton Stout one that got negated by the illegal contact penalty, and then a couple near Fred Warner picks, a near D Winters pick. They just have to keep on chopping wood and hope that one of these turns in their favor, because you're going to very, very rarely win, a game where you're -4 in the turnover column. And that's what Jacksonville has specialized in this year. I'll tell you that the 49ers specialized in that in 2022 and 2023 when they had their juggernaut teams. This season, I mean, the sample is still relatively small. And again, you could point at several different plays today where they were close to generating those takeaways, but they have to start actually finishing them and following through. And maybe the ball will start bouncing their way on Thursday in LA. I do know that, a lot of that is luck based, as you've seen, where it's not luck based, and where they absolutely need to fix it right away is special teams. And I think it's frustrating to 49ers fans because the special teams and the coverage had been better over weeks 2 and 3. It was atrocious against Seattle. It was decent against New Orleans. It was decent against Arizona. I mean, they even ranked in the special teams expected points. They're positive. They gained 2 points in each of the past 2 weeks. The numbers when they come out tomorrow might be a tiny bit tempered by the fact that Jacksonville missed what could have been the ceiling field goal to give the 49ers one more chance, but they're still going to be brutal for San Francisco. I wonder if they're already out. I don't think so. Usually they come out the very next day. I'm going to take a quick look just in case they are, because they were -11 on special teams against Seattle. Really curious to see where, they're not out yet. They were -11 against Seattle, +2.5 against New Orleans, +2.1 against Arizona. And this might not be -10 or worse just because of that missed Jacksonville field goal, but it still was greater than the margin. I mean, literally the margin was that 87-yard punt return. Now, there's going to be a lot of, and I already see it online, just insane focus on the quarterback position, as if everything relies on that. I don't even think that Trevor Lawrence was necessarily better than Brock Purdy today. I mean, so much is reliant on what happens outside of these quarterbacks. And the bottom line is that Jacksonville held on to the football and the 49ers didn't. Jacksonville got away. Trevor Lawrence got away with his interception-worthy throws. There might have been 3 or 4 of them from Trevor Lawrence, and Brock Purdy very obviously didn't. And there was really only one truly turnover-worthy throw from Brock Purdy, and it was the tip ball in the second. It was still a tip in that second half that turned into an interception. The one to Christian McCaffrey that bounces off your receiver, it's not a turnover-worthy play. I mean, sometimes the outcome of some of these plays is outside of a particular player's control. But what we see so often in these cases, especially now since people have to make quick blanket judgments on everything, is that they do not successfully parse the outcome from the process. They don't actually look to see, who legitimately was at fault. It's not just, it's an interception, it's on the quarterback, or this is so simple, the 49ers can't run the ball and the season's over. There's usually a lot that's interconnected that goes into it. And at the end of the day, Purdy was fine for the 49ers today. Do I think that he might have been a little bit off on some of those throws? Maybe because of the toe, possibly. It's really hard to prove. But the problem is you've got people talking out of both sides of their mouth. They say, he was missing high. And then they say, well, he should have thrown higher to Juwan Jennings in the end zone, whereas that throw was low, but it had to be low. I mean, that's the only place that you could put that ball that Jennings didn't catch. I mean, you have to just judge this simply. Did the ball make contact with the hands or not? And in at least 5 instances in this game where the 49ers did not record a completion, where it was either a damaging incompletion or an even more damaging interception, in at least 5 instances, a ball from Purdy hit a receiver's hands, but ended up as a negative outcome for the 49ers. And then you have to seriously ask yourself, how differently is this game viewed if just 3 of those 5 turn into catches for San Francisco? And I'm talking about the Jennings play with the lower ball, which I think Purdy had to put there because you can't risk a higher ball that gets tipped up in the air in the end zone. I'm talking about all 3 of Kendrick Bourne's drops, where it just didn't look like they were just a tiny bit out of sync. And sometimes that does lead to the drops. And, it was Purdy's first game back, so maybe that was a little bit of the issue. But the third one, where he still would be running, he'd probably be in Eureka by now, running up the coast. He was running from south to north. This is the NFL. I mean, if you don't catch a football like that, then your margin is likely going to be completely erased if you were the favorite to begin with, as the 49ers were. And that did see the erasure of the 49ers margin. And then, Christian McCaffrey, I think he said that he should have made that play. And I think he typically does make the play where he said actually was trying to get it with 2 hands. Then he realized mid-leap that he would only be able to reach it if he one-handed it. So he switched from 2 hands to 1 hand, and then he bobbled it to himself. And then the killer blow there was that he inadvertently bobbled it backwards. And that's when Devin Lloyd, the linebacker, was able to intercept the pass. Anyway, all of those plays happened. So did many big chunk gains. So did many nice layered throws from Brock Purdy. So did a couple nice scrambles in this game. And he threw for over 300 yards. Sometimes the ball doesn't bounce your way. Sometimes you don't make the catches that you need to. Sometimes you play a clunky game like the 49ers targets did today. Even McCaffrey, who posted his spectacular touchdown today, that was vintage CMC off the shovel pass. Even he seemed to be having a hard time holding on to the football today, which is rare, right, for Christian McCaffrey, but it just happened. Christian, after the game, said that those mistakes are uncharacteristic. Right now they are. The 49ers have not had such issue. I know McCaffrey did have a drop the week prior, but in general, so far this season, it has not been a huge recurring issue for the 49ers. You can't say, oh my God, they've right now they're playing the Jags 49ers highlights, by the way, on my phone. See that? Yeah, you guys probably don't want to see that. I'm going to take a quick little break. I'm watching Purdy throw to McCaffrey. Yeah, see, off of McCaffrey's hands, intercepted by the Jaguars. Brutal for San Francisco. I'll just narrate the highlights as they come. I know you guys don't want to see these. There's Lawrence to the end zone, found his tight end against Marquise Siegel. That put Jacksonville up 14-11. At that point, I thought the 49ers were going to be blown out, but they hung in there. And then the McCaffrey shovel pass, that was an insane bit of elusiveness and burst from Christian McCaffrey. They had to dig deep into their bag of tricks to score into the red zone, but that brought them to within 3 points, and it included the Jawan Jennings 2-point conversion where he hurt his ribs. Then it was 20-14, and then they gave up the 87-yard punt return. Curtis Robinson juked out of his pants. Juszczyk couldn't get to Harrison, the returner, and then, I mean, it was kind of a joke beyond that point. Thomas Morstead wasn't going to catch him either, and that essentially put the nail in the coffin for the 49ers. I know that they fought back after that, and there was still a couple more opportunities, but the margin very, very literally was the punt return that they gave up. You just can't have that. Jake Tonjes with the screen pass touchdown brought the 49ers to within 26-21. Then they got the break with the missed field goal, and that's where Eric Armstead came in to close the game for Jacksonville. We're at the missed field goal right now on these highlights. And Purdy. Well, first Purdy found McCaffrey, so they got to the 50 with about 3.5 left. And then in came Armstead, beating Brendel, Dominic Pooney on that right side, knocking the ball away with his right hand. And that was that. You know, the 49ers are a team that I think they're even more reliant on complementary football than, I mean, every NFL team is obviously reliant on it. It's the goal. But I think that the way that they play offense with all the play action you see and all the pass game rooted around the run offense and the outside zone, the 49ers are very reliant on the rhythm that complementary football brings. And it looked like early this game that they would be able to settle into a track to find it. The big problem against Arizona last week was that Arizona just possessed the ball for the whole first quarter, and the 49ers were never able to find that rhythm. So it was uphill sledding the whole game. They ultimately somehow, some way found a way to get it done. Ironically, today, even though they ended up losing, they started the game on the track that they needed to. And they were running the football well over the course of the first quarter. They were possessing the ball. That they would have the pass plays that would work off of the spine of the run game. But the defense was playing solid football for San Francisco too. But things started spiraling once they were making the self-inflicted errors. Once Farrell fumbled, was holding the football out like a loaf of bread, not cradling the football. Once McCaffrey wasn't able to hold on to that Purdy pass and it turned into an interception, that's when the defense was out there for 107 yards on that one drive. That's when Etienne ripped off the big touchdown that came right after the Farrell fumble. I think that might have been the next play. That was a terrible two-play sequence for the 49ers. I mean, they lost their grip on the game flow, on the complementary football that fuels them. And then all of a sudden they're playing from behind. You're down 14-3. It looks like it could be worse, but you're having to pass more often than run to get yourself out of the hole. And then the run game that looked good in the first quarter doesn't look good anymore. And you're behind the 8 ball for the rest of the game. Purdy and McCaffrey and Ricky Pearsall before he got hurt did some spectacular things. Jake Tonjes did a great thing as well. Juszczyk made a catch or two in this game. They almost dug themselves out of it with some of the explosive plays. They finally did better in the explosive department today. I can't wait to see the official numbers on the explosives, but then the special teams came in and just punched them in the face. I mean, every single time they did a little bit to stabilize this game, whether it be at the end of the first half or in the second half, they gave up either a huge kick return or a huge punt return or kicked the ball into the end zone or committed a personal foul on special teams. They just could not complementarily sustain momentum through the 3 phases of the game. And that's why things can turn around so quickly for the better or for the worse in football, because all 3 phases are connected in that way. So As you could see here, the headline up on the Standard, the 49ers play the Rams in 4 days. That might be a good thing for the 49ers. You know, Dallas today played that great Green Bay defense without CeeDee Lamb, and they dropped 40 points. 49ers might be operating without Ricky Pearsall on Thursday. Who knows? They might be operating without Jawan Jennings. They might be really, really shorthanded in LA. But I think they'd still rather play this game sooner rather than later. After just a game where you've got so many self-inflicted wounds, you've actually proven that your offensive structure, that your quarterback can take advantage of holes in an opposing defense. That was the number 2 defense in all football that they faced today. Jacksonville has been good throughout the start of this season. You've shown that you can move the ball. Now, I think if you're the 49ers, you want to get back out there as quickly as possible and prove that you can hold on to the ball. Because even though this was a 1-game sample and McCaffrey said it was uncharacteristic, if this happens a few times, if this starts happening over and over, those kind of mistakes become part of your identity. Last season, the 49ers started giving up 3rd and long. They couldn't get off the field on 3rd and long with Nick Sorensen. Remember that? I do. After 3, 4, maybe even 2 games of that not being able to get off the field on 3rd and long became part of the 49ers identity. Today, that actually was an issue. I mean, that was a huge play to Travis Hunter on 3rd and 15 at the start of the game where Shanahan was unable to change his penalty decision. He was a little upset about that. Officials made a mistake, but still the 49ers had a chance to get off the field on the very long drive for Jacksonville, but Trevor Lawrence completed to Hunter and converted the 3rd and 15. So some shades of 2024 in this game today. But you go back to the fact that these drops for the 49ers were only this glaring, massive issue today. It is incumbent on McCaffrey, whoever plays next week, right? All those guys to make sure this does not become a week in, week out thing. Because right now the cement is still wet. That cement will dry, and it usually happens at some point in October. And that's who you are as a football team. That's an identity that becomes really, really hard to shake. So there's a difference between one lousy game, one uncharacteristically lousy game when it came to the sloppiness department, and something that a team can be expected to deliver on a week in and week out basis. And I think the 49ers are still on the front half of that equation. And right now that they've tasted something really bad, they want to run and get the mouthwash and make sure that they get that taste out of their mouths. And they could do that on Thursday against the Rams team. Rams are favored by 3.5. This game, again, it's much more important than this Jacksonville one because it's a divisional game. Entering this season, I predicted 3-3 for the 49ers to start because I figured we'd see a lot of the defense like we saw in the first half today, just some shakiness. I think they had been better over the first 3 weeks than I expected today. Probably averaged out to what I might expect to see from the defense. And I also knew that the offense would be dealing with some health issues before a lot of guys returned. And I figured, maybe a loss at Seattle, maybe wins against the Saints and Arizona. And, I figured the 49ers would win one of the Jacksonville, LA, or Tampa games. I probably thought they'd win Jacksonville, lose LA and Tampa. I said 3-3 after 6. When they got out to that 3-0 start, just sucking some money into the bank, finding ways to win, walking the tightrope, but finding ways to win, it was like, okay, great. That means they have some breathing room now. They have some margin for error. They could even lose the second game of this homestand and be fine. I mean, hell, they could even lose the next 2 and they'll still end up at the 3-3 that we initially had forecast them to be as a growing team at the start of the season. But your whole perspective of everything changes after they started 3-0 because going 3-3, starting 3-3 after 3-0 start means you've got to have an 0-3 stretch. And really, really good teams typically don't lose 3 in a row in this league. So at some point over the next 2 weeks, we will see if the 49ers can rise to the challenge and stop this bleeding. Even if it doesn't happen Thursday, that's the one they would most prefer to win because it's a division game against the Rams. They've got another tough one against Tampa Bay where they somehow, some way won last year. But that Buccaneers game, that also lines up to be a difficult challenge for the 49ers. So 2 on the road for San Francisco, and then they come home to face the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday Night Football. I mean, this league is merciless. And the second that you blink, and the 49ers blink today, it is likely to turn into a loss. But they still have a lot of potential productivity on their side. I mean, the stat that I look at today is the fact that defense was good in the second half. And they've got to figure out a way. Look, wait, let's listen to Fred Warner. Fred is always really, really hard on his unit, and he acknowledged that they did get better in the second half, but he also said that they need to be a lot better in the first.
Going that first half was not good enough. We took too long to get going. That first half was not good enough. The explosive runs, leaky yardage. I think in the second half it was better, but still not up to our standard. Guys need to know where they're fitting, getting on and off blocks, making tackles, driving for five. So looking to obviously be better on that this week, going into next week.
So that was Fred Warner talking about, I mean, the explosive Etienne touchdown run in the first half. That was brutal. But again, it was coming right off of turnover. I mean, that's negative complementary football, right? 49ers were controlling the game flow all in their favor. They're up 3-0. They have the football. If they drive for a touchdown, they can be up 10-0. Luke Farrell fumbles the football, goes back the other way. Next play, I think it was the Etienne touchdown run. So that's a defense that I don't think they're good enough on defense yet to just stiffen up every single time the offense throws them adversity. And today the offense threw that defense adversity over and over again with its turnovers and its drops. And then the defense, they're also not in good position when the special teams sets them up with really poor starting field position. So that happened over and over. 49ers need to do a better job setting the table for their defense. On the note of Purdy, this is the spray chart from today. Oops. Got to go back to this one right here. This is the spray chart from today on the note of Brock Purdy. As you can see, they're using essentially all parts of the field. I don't think he had difficulty making any particular throw in this game. I know that there were a couple that seemed to sail a little bit high, but it wasn't like the game plan was limited for the 49ers. And Trent Williams said they didn't sense any frustration from Brock. He said, we got to protect Brock. It's not on him. He threw 2 interceptions and both of those passes got tipped. He's probably not personally frustrated. He shouldn't be anyway, is what Trent Williams said. And I think that's the really only sane way to look at this. I still contend that the second pick was a bad decision from Brock Purdy, even if it did get tipped, because you could live down here. It's fine, especially on first down. If a team like Jacksonville is super opportunistic, is choking off some of the more aggressive downfield options, you don't have to force. Purdy's really good at doing it. Purdy's really good at threading the needle, but you don't have to force it on first down. And I think that's what he needs to be better at times is saying, hey, okay, we could live to fight another down. It's just first down. It's just second down. Take the profit. Look, he took the profit every single time that's listed as green here. He took the profit for the 49ers underneath. I think they needed to see a little bit more of that when that second interception came. But by and large, there were so many good throws today. And I always just go back to the fact that if you reverse interception luck in this game, the outcome is completely different, right? If Upton Stout's interception is upheld and Christian McCaffrey just knocks that ball down that he couldn't get, then all of a sudden that turned into an interception. All of a sudden you're probably looking at a completely different final score. So we need to start like disassociating outcome from performance as a strict tie and actually look at the progression that links the two. They're obviously correlated, but especially in a one-game sample, they're not necessarily inextricably linked. Like it's and everybody wants to connect quarterback performance with game outcome, and that's all that they can think about. Whereas there was 4, 5, 6 different things in this game that obviously contributed to the 49ers loss that they want to fix by Thursday. So quick week for the 49ers. We're going to have a Ricky Pearsall injury update for you tomorrow. A loss is a loss, and the 49ers couldn't hold on to the ball. They could move the ball today. Nearly 400 yards, 6.2 per play. They could definitely move the ball. They just couldn't hold it. They've got to do a better job to avoid that becoming part of their identity. They have a chance to wash it away on Thursday against the Rams. Big picture, 49ers are 3-1. They play more football in just a few days. Back with the Ricky Pearsall update and everything else tomorrow. Make sure that you subscribe, and obviously make sure that you're checking out the San Francisco Standard. I put the link to this game article in the description. Everybody take care.